Yeah. Yeah.
Alright guys, welcome to another episode of the Reality Diaries. We've got our guests today, Ovias and Dan, back on.
Hello.
Hi, good
We're
to be back.
Good to be back today.
And you got obviously the host as well, Bilal.
You already know it is. It's your boy Prolific. Let's go. So today we're going to be talking about a range of different topics, such as routines and setting goals
And
and
building a
whatnot.
system as well, yeah.
So yeah,
Is it why routine is important in life? Why it's important for your goal setting?
yeah.
Yeah.
Building that, discipline as well, and that consistency mainly, to be honest, to obviously like people on this podcast have accomplished things, and we want to go through like what kind of steps and systems they had in place to accomplish what they have on today, what they're doing today. So I'd like to start with Bilal. How did you kind of, or what is your kind of routine and what kind of system do you have in place to kind of,
Well, I think basically there's two concepts, when it comes to having a routine or understanding about a routine, So one of the first concepts you need to understand is that the brain itself creates routines, The brain cannot live without routines, And basically, let's say a brain without routine is basically like a garden without a gardener,
Okay.
Yeah, so you need to understand that the brain is like 2% of your body weight, if I'm correct. Yeah,
I think the doctor can.
The doctor's here.
if I'm correct,
Depends how big your brain is.
Okay.
And how big your body is as well.
And I think it consumes about 20% of your energy as well.
Right.
Yeah. So one things that I do as well is I tend to waking up early as well is one of the best things, because when you wake up early, you tend to focus on your goals straight away, especially if you wrote the night before. So there's this book that I've read it before. It's called The Miracle Morning, by Hal Harold, if I'm right, And he created this concept. It's called the savers concept, So what happens is in the morning, if you notice, majority of the people, like if I get a lot of public transport when I go to work, in the mornings. So if you see a lot of people are grumpy, because majority of the people, they just wake up, alarm goes on, wake up, automatically on the rush, put the clothes, always on the rush, always on the go, So this savers concept basically is S stands for silence. So when you wake up, first thing, try and stay in silence. What I tend to do is, because I'm Muslim, I wake up at the Fajr, pray, Some people meditate, some people might do whatever, Another one, the A stands for affirmations, So you do your affirmations, whatever you have to do throughout the day, or your affirmations about yourself, whatever you feel, V is for visualization. You have to visualize what you're going to do, So anyways, and E is for exercise, So I tend to do like a couple push-ups just to get the blood flowing, just to wake up straight away. And then you get the R as well for reading. R is for reading, and then S. I forgot what the S is for. But I forgot what the S is for.
Is that supposed to go back to sleep?
But what I'm trying to say is, if I tend to wake up early, and by the time I leave home, it feels like I've done a million of things, and I feel like I'm a bit like 10 steps ahead of everyone else.
So and you're going to work with
I'm going to work with that mindset. So that's one of the things that I tend to do. What about yourself, Dan?
Okay, it sounds like you're doing it consciously. Do you know what I mean? Like instead of just waking up and being on autopilot, and just letting the day just control you and throw you around and like, you're being stressed, all of it. Like from a moment you wake up, you're stressed. Then how's your day gonna go?
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? It's like you're starting it properly. You're starting it with the right intentions. Like that's the main thing. For me, I'm a big believer in waking up early. Because I know for a fact if I'm lazy and I oversleep, then that's just gonna drag into my day. It's gonna dictate my day, and then before I know it, half the day's gone, and then you already feel tired and sluggish. It's like you have to. It's like doing things consciously. Like let's say if you let your like laziness side take over, then you're thinking, if I have all these hours in bed, and I'm gonna feel like more energized, but can have the opposite effect.
Yeah.
Because you're training your body to just be relaxed all the time. You're not stimulating yourself. You're not giving yourself the energy, sunlight. You know, waking up in the morning, like when the sun's rising, around that time. You know. Go on.
I think as well. The system that we live, the day has 24 hours. Yeah. And the human body as well. We have a system inside us. I think it's called the circadian cycle. Yeah,
circadian rhythm.
Circadian rhythm,
which is like in the middle of your brain, something like that. So what happens with that cycle is basically like we have a clock inside our body. Yeah, so the daylight is for you to wake up.
Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and the night is for you to sleep. I think
Exactly.
certain people are different, but
Yeah.
that's what it is basically. It's important to follow this.
Yeah.
For your health as well, yeah. And I think the doctor can touch more on that.
Yeah, so I mean, I think routine is important for whatever you do. The key thing is individualization. So each individual can choose a routine, but I think consistency and sticking to it is the most important thing. So waking up early in the morning, whether that's 4:30, 5:30, 6:30, doesn't really make too much of a difference as long as you're consistent with it and it aligns with your responsibilities and your goals. What Bilal was touching upon in terms of circadian rhythms is using the body's hormones for your advantage, essentially. So when you wake up, the thing that wakes you up is a spike of cortisol, essentially, which is released by your adrenal glands. So that's the same hormone that kind of gets you ready. So, and it's the same hormone, if there's an excessive amount of it, will cause stress.
Right.
So what you want to do is in that early morning when you've got that cortisol spike is utilize it. The second thing is melatonin, which is what you were referring to with the circadian rhythm.
Sleep.
Right, for the sleep.
Now, melatonin gets released sort of periodically throughout the day. And there's different things that will influence this. So sunlight is one thing that suppresses melatonin. So the suppression of melatonin then allows you to sort of stay more alert and awake. As the night progresses, you should get a release of melatonin. Okay, so then that helps you put you into that state of wanting to be sort of, wind down and go to sleep. And often you'll find people who struggle with insomnia, they will take melatonin as a supplement to try and sort of supplement that to get extra levels of that. So really when we're looking at routine, it's about trying to find, well, what works for you?
Yeah.
And it's, I think it's a bit, we can't just sort of sit here and say, oh, morning routine is the best and it's the only way. And,
True.
Other people who work night shifts or they have different responsibilities, their routine is going to be inadequate. So it's more than that. But I agree with what's been said. I prefer to wake up early in the morning. And for me, it's about, utilizing that sunlight. I can get that into my eyes early on. I feel like I can be more productive because as the day goes on, my energy decreases. I'm more likely to engage in behaviors that I don't want to in the evening than I am first thing in the morning. And the other thing I'd be interested to see what you guys think is, if you're awake in the morning, usually you're the only one who's awake.
True.
Your family's not awake. Nobody
That's
else,
true.
your friends aren't awake.
Yeah.
And so there's just less distractions because we live in a world of distraction.
Mm.
And if you're just getting distracted, there's messages, there's people who want your time, then ultimately your goals become more difficult to achieve. So, and I'd be interested to hear everyone's thoughts here. But for me, it's about having control of what you're doing, being mindful, but also making sure your environment favors that. And for me, the longer the day goes on, my environment changes. So I think that for me makes a huge difference when it comes to routine. But it'd be interesting to see what you guys think.
Yeah, so I think what the doctor said was right about, in depth of the circadian rhythm and system. And also, but I'll mention more about, the system and in depth of what he does in his routine and his life as well currently. But I think what it boils down to is like not only just the system, it's about what you feed your body as well.
Yeah.
And I think if you don't feed your body the right things, I don't think you would the next day would be productive how it is, or because whatever kind of food you eat like in the night or during the day, the day before, it will factor your next following day because you will feel lethargic, you will feel high fatigue. There's foods that will increase fatigue, like such as fast food takeaways and things, whatnot like that, and foods high in sugar as well. So I think not just only like from just waking up early and things, there will be like a lot of factors that will affect your routine. So I think diet is one main point as well. If you don't have a good diet in your life, or you don't have a good diet during the day, it will affect your daily productivity, I think, as well. So making sure you're having a strict diet and something that's following, will help your mental performance. It'll help your mental performance. It'll help your, whether if you're an athlete or whether a student or someone that's working in a professional field. I think diet will have a big factor on your daily routine and your system. And regarding goal setting, I think it's just about finding your purpose. To be honest,
it's basically what you said. You don't construct your success or failure. You construct habits, and your habits will dictate your success or failure. That's
I think it's important as well to question why you're doing your routine for.
Exactly.
Because some people have different routines. One is for sport. One can be for health. One can be for like studies,
academics,
family routines, work routines. So there's different routines you have in your day, which is quite interesting as well.
It depends what you're trying to achieve as well with your routine, yeah? So a lot of people, they just tend to make goals, long-term goals, but I think the most important thing is your day-to-day routine is going to dictate if you're going to reach your goals or not. That's why I see
That's true. So like you said there, so I think main thing is that finding your purpose, finding your passions, like we mentioned in our previous podcast as well. What passions and what works for you as well is important, because like what the doctor said as well, people do work night shifts, and there's people that that work in important roles in the night as well, such as people in the health field as well. But like I said, guys, it's not about waking up only in the morning, like the doctor said. It's about what works for you, what works for your family, what works for your daily life, what works that can give you a healthy life balance, because you want that mental clarity at the end of the day during the day, and when you want to enjoy life. So it's about doing the basics first. If you feel like you're in a position right now that your life is not going where you want to be, or you feel like what you're failing in some kind of area there, it's just about doing the simple thing like making your bed in the morning. You know what I mean? Because a lot of us just stand up, go have a shower, and just we're culprits sometimes as well of that. But it's like simple things like making your bed, just putting your body into task of doing things. You know what I mean? And that's what creates healthy habits as well.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in like starting as you mean to go on. So let's say if throughout your day you're in the mindset of, oh, I'll leave it for later.
Yes.
I'll leave it for later.
Procrastination.
You do that when you wake up. You do that in the middle of the day. Then you do that before you go to bed. Eventually, you've left everything till later. And then you do that the next day. I'll leave it till later. I'll leave it to another day. And you just keep going around in that cycle. So you need to break out of that and be like, no, I'm going to take charge. I'm going to do everything now when I can in this moment. Do you know what I mean? Like, be in that moment and act then consciously.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
I think with anything, one thing that works really, really well when we're looking at habit change is making the first step as easy as possible. Because even if you have day-to-day goals, which are short-term goals, if they're too daunting and you're overcome by fear, anxiety, self-doubt to do that thing, it's going to be difficult to make a change. But we all know that once you get started in any activity that you're doing, it suddenly then becomes easier to do. If it's going to the gym, the hardest bit is getting to the gym. Once you're there, it's very unlikely you're going to say, do you know what, after 2 minutes I give up, I'm going home.
Exactly.
It just doesn't happen. And it's the same with any task. It's getting started. That is a key thing. I came across a concept about sort of whenever you're doing a difficult task is you want to try and make it as enjoyable as possible. Because sometimes we get caught in this sort of grind mentality, I'm going to put through it, I'm going to push through it. And I think there are times when that's required.
Yes.
And it's useful to have that resilience. But at other times it can be detrimental, because if you know that this is going to be difficult, and your mind is automatically going to try and steer you away from it. But if you can reframe that to sort of say, well, do you know what, I'm going to make this into something that's enjoyable, take the pressure off yourself, so there's no sort of risk of failure, so to speak. It's just about actually partaking in it. That can often make the whole process easier. And then once you get into a routine, as we're talking about today, and we build good habits, things become easier, don't they? Yes. We've all built up bad habits, and then it's about trying to relearn those things and replace them with sort of good habits. Like
you said there, like boiling down your tasks is very effective, because if you don't break down the tasks or during the day or long-term task, it'll just get, like you said, daunting, but you'll go off path of it, and you won't stay consistent, because like you said, this grind mentality, you can't, there's your body and your mind can't just do much, and just keep pushing is not gonna help you get to,
someone's gonna push back
exactly
Yeah.
you're gonna hit an obstacle, and you're gonna say, you're gonna fall down, and you're gonna go back to kind of where you were before. So like just breaking down tasks, and also just just celebrating small wins, celebrating small tasks, simple tasks as well. You gotta be like, you did a simple task. You may not achieve that large task that you wanted to do, but those kind of steps, like you said, building those steps to get to that task, you should appreciate the journey and celebrating those little tasks you do in short term and long term.
Definitely. Like going back to what you're saying about making things easier as well. Like I experienced that a lot with running, because obviously the area I'm in, martial arts, running is a big aspect of that. Yeah. And that's the training aspect, and it's the discipline, having the routine. And also with running, most people see it as like a chore or like a really boring thing. It's like the most treacherous thing to do, which obviously there's a reason why that is, because it is a repetitive motion that you're doing. But I went on a big journey with my running to like get to that point where I could enjoy it, and I could it could almost become like a free thing to do, like a way to enjoy like exercise. So I started learning about like different running styles, different running techniques, and eventually I transitioned to like minimalist shoes, which is like allowing your body to run as it's not naturally designed to run, like almost like a barefoot running style. So through that, I can share quite some experience on that, but I went from not being able to run like a 5K to being able to do a marathon in really sandals.
Sandals,
really? Yeah.
It's got barefoot running shoes on as well. I just seen it when I came in.
Barefoot shoes.
Yeah.
But that's an example, but I wouldn't have been able to do that with just like grind sheer mentality.
Exactly.
Like, I had to get to the point
you got to learn.
Just finalising that point there. It's just about, with routines, you have to make it so that you can want to do it. Like, because if you don't want to do it, I believe there's only so much you can forcefully put on yourself with just sheer willpower. I'm just going to push through it. Because everyone's human. Eventually, you're going to get tired. Things are going to come up. You're going to get burnt out in certain things. So you have to like what Ryan was saying then about small steps.
Small wins. That's the way.
But as well, having no routine is exhausted as well.
It gets exhausted. Yeah.
I remember one thing that my father told me as a young man. He told me, try and get your time as occupied as you can, as much, because when you tend to overthink a lot, when you have so much time in your hands and you're free and your brain is just that's draining as well. So it's really important to have a routine set in place. Have things that you enjoy doing, and like the doctor said the brain tends to replay itself. So whatever you done yesterday, the brain will try and do it today, because that's the way that the brain operates. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes. So let's say, like the doctor say, when you first go into the gym, it's hard, but the more you keep going, the easier it becomes, and before you know, it's part of your identity, is who you are. That's the way I see it. So,
lovely.
Yeah, I took that advice that my father told me as well. Try and occupy your time as much as you can, because when you have so much free time in your hands, it's drained. Often we see people with no routine, and it's like they're lifeless. They have no life. They're drained. You see it all over the time.
I've seen it, man.
And sometimes, I relate to what Dan said there about the kind of how running and the kind of system he had it to improve his running and perfect that, because it goes into everything. Because we we're humans, we can adapt to any kind of environment. That's how our body is, and we can adapt to exercises. We can adapt to what we learn, what we consume, anything. We just change. So, example, you take unhealthy foods, you become fat. You eat healthy foods, you become fit. We adapt. That's how our body is. And when you're focusing on something like your passion or your goal, something like that, there, best thing is that don't just like you said, they're just running. There's more to it than just running. There's a mechanism running. Man. Your feet, your if you're flat-footed, you've got arches. So deep, your knees, is your knees caves, things like that. Your hips, and it goes to different kind of mechanism. And it goes,
on the microscopic.
Even
how you think.
Exactly,
well.
we don't think about that. But people do get injuries multiple times, but they don't look at the kind of anatomy of their body. You know what I mean? So true. The best thing is that whatever kind of thing you're doing, if it's fitness or bodybuilding, whatever it is, it goes to micro things in there. You got to look at not just only the thing that you're just seeing, the exercise you're doing, or it goes to the other things like your mobility, or kind of how your body is, because our bodies are different. So you got to look more into, when you're perfecting something or when you perfect anything, you got to look into more how you are as a person rather than the other person, how he's doing it.
I think the key point there is whatever activity you're doing, you want to gain knowledge about the activity that you're doing.
Yeah.
And again, it goes both ways. So sometimes you can get into what's sort of paralysis by analysis, can't you? Where you just overanalyze, say running, for example, and it actually stops you from going out for a run.
I agree.
And so, it's that kind of little balance, isn't it? So you want to have enough knowledge about something so you feel comfortable doing it.
Yeah.
And once you feel comfortable doing things, it eliminates fear.
Exactly.
Because actually, a lot of the time, fear is due to self-doubt, isn't it? And you think, well, I've got this task to do. I've never done this before. Can I do it? Am I good enough to do it? But once you get knowledge and experience, which obviously comes with action, the process becomes easier.
It becomes fun.
It becomes fun, yeah. And then obviously
That's the key.
Well, exactly, yeah. You want to just make it enjoyable, and then the next step is obviously sometimes you can overanalyze things, and that is recognizing that. And you've probably come across that maybe in fighting, where
definitely,
if you're overanalyzing the movements that you're doing, the kind of techniques that you're doing, you actually then make yourself vulnerable to.
But it's a mental block. That's what I call a mental block. It's like where you create in your mind to be such a big thing that you miss it completely, and you can't do it. That's the key. Is to to be honest, I'm no psychologist, but I can just share my expertise. But you have to relax, even your mental state. You have to learn to control your mental state and your thoughts, because your thoughts are going to have a physical impact on your body. So when you're doing when you're preparing for a routine, or when you're in a routine, or when you're doing something that's challenging, you need to be able to deal with things that come up at that time, because things are going to come out of nowhere, like challenges, obstacles, things that you didn't think about, things you didn't expect. And it's like, how are you going to adapt at that moment? And you're the best adaptable when you're relaxed, you've dealt with your stress as much as possible.
So exactly. So I think we kind of all touched on routines and systems and the kind of the basics of it as well, and gaining knowledge on whatever you're doing. I think now is just kind of to talk about how would one structure that now. We've all got routines in life, but how would the person watching this now structure that routine from, say, from the get-go? Someone that doesn't wake up in the morning, wakes up in the afternoon or evening, wastes their day, procrastinates, doesn't get tasks done. So how would one structure that? I'd like to hear that from you guys.
My advice would be to start small.
Right.
You need to start small, because if you try and start big, how everyone else is doing, all these people on Instagram and all these people that have been doing it for years, and they're knowledgeable and they're strong discipline.
Listen to how I do it.
Yeah, exactly.
You're doing it wrong.
Exactly.
that.
But it's not their journey. That person has to just start small. Really, start with the easiest basic things. Could be putting one dish away. Could be just making your bed in the morning. That could be the smallest thing to do. And then it, naturally it will progress as you need it to, and then you'll start making changes in your life. That's what I think.
What do you think, Bilal?
I think the hardest challenge from what I've been around that people struggle the most is coming out of bed to do things. That's the hardest one. And for me, you need to place a good strategy in place, So, and you need to know why you're getting up to bed for.
What's the reason?
What's the reason for? That's the most important thing. And like Dan said, it's just about taking little steps forward. And as we touched on before, is the more you do it, the easier it will become. That's all I can say for now.
That's it. Find your why, and the how will follow. The key thing is, like you said, you need to have a reason for what you're doing. And once you know, it's then about putting a plan in place. And I often found what was helpful for me was writing things down.
Yeah.
So if I've got a timetable, the times I've been most disciplined in my life have actually been where I've got a tangible timetable. Right. And I know it sounds very old school, but honestly, it would just be a calendar that would write down, these are the things that I need to do. And putting it on paper just makes it, one, more real, because the thoughts have gone out of your head. And secondly, you've got something to look back at as a constant reminder. Because we have
Journaling,
yeah. Thousands of thoughts come and go through your head, don't they, every single day. And like we've talked about, everybody's trying to get your attention.
They are.
Every minute
to make
of the
a
day.
book.
Exactly. So if you can kind of just get something tangible, put it down that you can refer back to, then it gives yourself an opportunity for self-accountability. And I think for me, that's been really, really important. Whenever I look at my life, the most disciplined times I've had a clear structure in place. And then there's been times where it's fallen off, like it will have for everybody.
Well, humans,
Yeah.
I think
sorry, go on, brother. Go on.
I think one way as well to start, let's say, try and plan your day the night before, the day before. So you sit at night and you prioritize your tasks as well. So you prioritize your tasks and you say, okay, these tasks are non-negotiable. So no matter what, I have to do it. And then you add the extras. Okay, if I tick these boxes here, then I can go over and do these ones, you know. Because what happens is, like we mentioned before, with the social media, we lose a lot of time in social media as well. A lot of people
Takes our attention,
takes a lot of our attention. So it's try and minimize these things and put our time in things that will actually benefit us in the long term.
Exactly.
Sorry, Dan, for interrupting
No,
you.
don't be sorry, bro. It's fine.
Oh, I remember what the S was for.
What?
Sorry.
The S was for S in savers. Yeah, was for scribbling. Yeah, journaling. Yeah.
Ah, okay,
Yeah.
makes
So there
sense.
you go,
Yeah, yeah.
background into your point.
Yeah.
There you go. I just wanted to say about routine. Like
Yeah,
everyone will at some point, you will fall off your routine.
Yeah.
And you will have times where you're not 100% on your routine, because that's just completely natural, yeah.
100%.
100% natural. But what's not natural is then giving up completely and being extreme about it. You know, a lot of people, if we as individuals we create a routine and it's important to us, and you know we have our reasons why. If then we don't meet up to that routine, we can feel like, oh, I've let down, I'm not good, you know, I'm worthless, like negative thoughts about yourself, and like giving up, and that you can't do it and you can't progress. But that is just that's a signal. When you get those thoughts right there, that's a signal to then just pull back a bit, just frame up and just be like, okay, this has happened. I then need to come back to my routine again slowly. Like, don't be extreme about it. Don't be too like,
exactly.
you know, black and white. You know, your routine is a structure, and it's like the structure is the main thing that's going to help you in your life. You know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, like we all said here, I think one main thing as well is that all of us nowadays, we have high expectations because of the expectations social media put out there for us. Because now we're not even appreciating nowadays the small, you know, the small wins or the small kind of like important things that we should be appreciating. Now when we like, let's say you start, you know, to embark on learning something or embark on doing something or starting a business or, you know, do like learning a new skill, we have a lot of high expectations nowadays that we want that kind of target, we want that, but you know, we don't appreciate the little small things we have going on. Like example, like, you know, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Like, you know, like just appreciate the small things in your life. Like some things may not be working right now, but you know, if you just be consistent, you know, just keep being consistent. It takes time. A lot of us want to make money quick. A lot of us want to get like this lifestyle very quick and become that. But it doesn't. It takes years. The people in the game. It takes years. They became you know, the best in the game for years, in fighters, footballers, athletes, anyone from every. It takes years, decades. But we're not now in this generation. Now we don't even appreciate that no more. Want to be like this at this age, want that. At that age, I want that. They don't even appreciate
Fast fashion.
They don't even know. They don't even know exactly. Fast life.
Fast life.
And you gotta blame social media on that as well. But you know, sometimes, like you said, Bilal, you gotta sometimes take away your attention from social media and just invest in yourself. You know, you don't need to listen to people online or people telling you stuff. Sometimes it's just about looking at yourself and looking at your life and your routine you got going on now, and just making things work. You know what to do. You know what to do, but you just need to just take that action step by step. It's the basic things, like you said, washing your dish, cleaning your bed up, simple things like that.
It.
You know what to do. You don't need people, you know, like us to, you know what to do.
Everyone
but you just
knows what to do.
Yeah, everyone knows what to do, exactly. But you just need to just have that fire in you. What, like, your reason? What is your reason to do it? Yeah. And once you find a reason, you'll be unstoppable.
And just keep going. Like, a lot of people always in the gym ask me like, oh, you know, do you think I'm good at Muay Thai? Or like, how long do you think it's gonna be till I'm good?
Till
or
I'm
like,
pro.
How long does it take to get good?
And are you honest with them, or are you nice to them?
I'm extremely honest. I was telling them straight, that's it.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, it depends on who it is that's asking the question. But first of all, I'll say is how much time you put in that year.
Exactly.
In the first place, because if you think, okay, I'm going to do something for a year, but I'm going to do it once a month, then you're only doing it 12 times.
That's
so
true.
So then how are you going to get that much better?
That
But
makes so much sense.
If you do it every week, then you're going to get you're going to do it 52 times at least. Do you know what I mean? Never mind, twice a week is 100 times in a year. So that you could do that 100 times in 1 year versus 5 years. Do you know what I mean? And then
it adds up.
Yeah,
it compounds.
exactly.
It
100%.
compounds. Yeah.
But for me, I always say like it takes years. Like
it takes years for everything to be honest. So anything you do, it
Long
takes years. I've been a doctor, and it took how many long? You know.
Yeah, I mean, many years.
Many years. Look at that.
5 years at
Look at that.
2 years.
How many times you have to
training,
work for free and things like that? You know.
Absolutely. So I think you're right. In order to master any craft, it takes hours and hours of practice, because you never get it right the first time round.
Never.
And if you expect to get something the first time round, you're setting yourself up for failure. And I think the most difficult thing is sometimes you do expect it. You think, oh, that doesn't look too difficult, I'll be able to do that. And it's easy to get disheartened. The one thing that I wanted to talk about actually is, we've talked about what you can do as an individual, but we know that your environment often is very powerful, and that creates the person that you are.
Exactly.
So what do you guys think about sort of building communities or building support networks and structure that can allow people to help to flourish, essentially? Because if you can get 3 or 4 people together and they have the same values or good values and things, then the one person, say, who is feeling unmotivated, lacking discipline, if you change their environment, the chances are you will help them towards their goals. So how can we create that? Because I think isolation is a big problem.
It is a problem, nowadays, yeah. And that's a good point he made. That obviously this is what the podcast is about: building a community where people can flourish. That's what main point of a podcast, about empowering people. And what the doctor said, it was a good point, is that, like some people may not accomplish things individually, and they need that kind of partner or peer support. And like he said, that it's good to, like my mom said every time, like your friends, if your friends are this kind of people, you become like that. And, if your friends are, high performers and doing good, you become the same, And it's about your circle sometimes. You got to look at your circle of people who you're around with, and they can factor, like you said, your environment. If your circle is not good people who are like, being productive and doing well in their lives, you don't even want to be around that, because that'll affect your future as well. And like I said, building a community is important of, like-minded people, and like people that will help each other and benefit each other and take each other to the next level. So that's a very important point you made there, Doctor.
So what's the next step that, say, somebody listening to this podcast who is feeling like, they want to make a positive change, they don't know where to start. What's the next thing that they can do?
The best thing you can do, guys, obviously, look,
apart from listening to this,
you can even get in contact with us as well. If you're feeling down, this. Balal's always got, you got a professional fight. You got people who are like,
I think one of the main things, setting a goal or starting a routine, you need to be present with yourself at all moments. You need to be present. You need to know exactly what you're doing. You need to be present in a moment, know exactly what you're doing and where you're heading. And like we said it here, if a sick dog walks around healthy dogs, he becomes healthy himself, So people, they just need to be, I think what goes down to it is people need to be more honest on how they are feeling, on what they want to achieve.
Honesty is important.
And they need to be honest, and who are they going to talk to as well? Like, if we can all give advice and opinions, but I think people need to go straight on to the point. How are you doing this? Can you help me become like you? And that's down to it. Just become mentors into people. We need more mentors.
And then building a community is kind of important to kind of help other people, become proactive and flourish.
Yeah, I think. I just wanted to wrap it. I just wanted to just second what Bilal said about being honest. Like, that. You've got to start from step one.
Yeah.
You've got to start somewhere. Everyone's got to start somewhere. You got to start with yourself first. Just be honest first. Just find your center. Find your way where you are right now, and then find where you want to be, and then just get there slowly. That's all it is. And then other people around you will help you as well. And people will come into your life that you don't anticipate, and opportunities will open over time. But it's just about being patient with it as well.
Yeah. Thank you. So like Dan said, made a great point. So one thing I'd say that helped me a lot was being in solitude. I think it was very, very pivotal factor that helped my life a lot, because sometimes I just I like to do things myself. A lot of the times I like to do accomplish things myself, and it's not about being greedy. It's not about being I just like being independent. I like being it because I've traveled around independently, doing things independently, accomplished a lot of things independently. I think sometimes what works for me, and hopefully will work for you, is that just sometimes to separate yourself from people and just focusing on yourself, just talking to yourself, being positive with yourself, and doing things yourself without any kind of influence around you. And then you'll learn more about yourself. And then you'll learn more about, what works for you better. And what's your kind of purpose. You'll find it more when you're with yourself.
Definitely, I agree with that 100%.
For me, like if you struggle with some kind of routine or whatever, as we mentioned over here, you start doing the small things. If you have something to get done at home, if you have dishes to go and get done, go and get them done. If you have the bed to make it. Don't think about too much or what has to be done. Just get it done. I think that's the best way to start it. And obviously, as we spoke, like we spoke how the brain loves routines. Yeah. Just try and make healthy habits. Instead of, let's say, waking up and first thing going into the phone, because like let's say if for a long period of time you wake up and first thing you go in a phone, automatically you're going to create this program in your brain, if I open my eyes, then I'm going to go on my phone. Does it make sense what I'm saying? So just try and make, let's say, if I open my eyes, be in silence, Give that time for yourself to be in silence, meditate, because often in the society that we live in right now, there's too much noise going around, too much information coming
too many
left and center, too many things, So take some time for yourself. It's really, really important just to be with yourself. Take like half an hour, 20 minutes just for you and yourself. See what's in your head, your thoughts, get everything together and plan your day from there. I think that's the best way to start it. And eventually, when you're going in a self-development path, you're going to meet people that
like-minded,
are going,
exactly.
that are going on the same path, and then you meet the army, and then we are all on the same journey. That's the way it is. That's what happened for me. And I hope it works for you as well.
Always.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's beautiful what you said, because it really does make sense. And you start to see things around you just start to fall in place without you even trying. So you meet the right people, the right opportunities crop up. I think for me, the first step is always be clear on what your goal is. Have a short-term goal that you can achieve every single day, and which then leads to an overall longer-term goal. The second thing is then making it tangible. For me, that always works. So writing it down, making sure you tell someone, really means that you're committing to that goal rather than it just being an idea. The third thing I would say is then come up with a plan in terms of how you're going to achieve your goal. And that can either be as simple as finding somebody who's already done it, and getting their advice, or looking up, sort of say, what are the next steps that I need to take and work. And the next thing is then make sure you pick the easiest step. So you've got the one with the least amount of initial friction or initial difficulty, because that sort of feeling that we've all probably felt where you need to do something, but it's just difficult and you have to kind of muster up the energy to just get over it. Yeah. That once you've done that, the rest of the task becomes easy. And the last thing, which we haven't really talked about, well, we've touched upon it. Everybody will fall off the wagon. Everybody will fail. Everybody will sort of, not achieve what they want to the first time round. The key thing that I think is having a plan in place when that happens, something called relapse planning, because we'll all relapse in some way. So that thinking about that before it happens means that when it does happen, you think, okay, I'm prepared for this.
Build a support mechanism, basically.
The support mechanism, whether it's your own mental model. And if you think about it, sports teams will do this all the time. And I'm sure you do it with fighting. If I do this, and it doesn't work, what's plan B?
That happened within every single training session. Every single training session, there is those moments. So it's not something that happens just like every now and then. Like within a training session, you'll be doing a certain exercise, and then you won't quite do it right, or you'll just do something a bit lazy that time, or you'll be like, I want to stop, and then it's like, no, you take charge that moment, you like come back to it, recenter yourself, without like fully, throwing it out and giving up. You keep going.